Hey guys, it's Anna. Welcome back to another video on my channel. Today I'm going to be giving you guys a spoiler-free review of Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. I don't really have a lot to say about this book that is spoiler-free, so this video might be pretty brief, but I did want to touch on some topics as to why I think that someone should read this book, and then things that I didn't necessarily like about the book. First, I will give you kind of a brief summary slash synopsis of what this book is actually about. So as you can tell, and as you probably know, because this book is pretty well known, I would say, it follows this vampire named Louis, who after many years of being a vampire decides it is finally time to tell someone kind of his life story and his origin story of being a vampire. You have a lot of topics that pop up in vampire books quite often being explored in this novel. What it means to be a vampire versus being a human, the morality of being a vampire that relies on humans, typical vampire dilemma stuff. That being said, it was very interesting to read this because a lot of the things that you see in more modern vampire novels like Twilight, typically you know what to expect. And I feel like a lot of those things, especially in modern young adult or adult literature, stem from both classic vampire literature, but also this book. There's a lot of stuff in here that I feel like kind of set the tone for the more modern wave of vampires. The first real example I have of that would be the fact that vampires are often associated with being sexual beings. And I think that revolves around the fact and the idea that vampires need the human body to survive. This novel has a lot, and I mean a lot, of sexual tension or sexual language or just things that shouldn't be sexual or sexy are somehow twisted to being sexual and sexy. The number one thing that pops into my mind when I bring up this topic is the idea of Claudia as a character. Claudia is a vampire who was transformed as a child, so she can never grow old. But even though she's stuck in this child body, she still has the mind of an adult woman. So you've got this very sexual being stuck in a child body, which is interesting. I think 90% of the characters in this novel are either bi or gay, which is so cool. It's not ever blatantly stated, but I mean, it's there. You can definitely tell. So that's definitely one thing I liked about the novel that really shocked me. Another thing about this novel is that it's kind of told in 3 different parts. And within these 3 parts, the antagonist and the mood kind of shifts. In the first part, it's more of an origin story. So you've got the origin story of Louis and how he met Lestat, who is another vampire in the novel, and then how he met Claudia, and also how Louis himself became a vampire. Afterward, you have this entire portion of the novel where Louis and Claudia go to Europe in a search to try to find vampires that will give them more information on vampirism. This small middle section is definitely my favorite part of the novel. The creepiest scene happens in this part, and them learning about other vampires in other parts of the country is so interesting. And then there's the third part, and the third part they go to France, so they're still abroad, and they meet other vampires and then start to have more domestic problems with them. The third part was definitely my second favorite part of the novel. I would say the first part is just not necessarily my favorite. I understand why it's there because it's introducing you to the characters, but if you're thinking about reading this or you are reading it and the first part is kind of dragging for you, second part is definitely better, third part is also definitely better, so just stick around for it. So those are all the things that I liked about it. One thing that I really right off the bat disliked about it is the fact that it is told in an interview style. Even though going into it I knew it would be, I was still kind of upset at the way that it was told because there were certain things that I wish that Louis could have told from his perspective, being in the moment, what he would do in that situation, but now he's had time to reflect. So he kind of just tells you what happened and then tells you what he wishes he had done instead of just letting you soak in what actually happened, which is a little annoying. There were also moments where Louis would just say oh, this happened, and then not really give too much detail, but I wanted detail, and I think that's kind of the only downside to the interview format is the fact that you're not reading it as it happens. The dialogue in this is also something else. The dialogue is so ridiculous, but also so good at the same time. And I actually liked the dialogue in it because Louis has to tell the story from his perspective as it's an interview, so I like the fact that Louis retells the story by making it so much more dramatic than it probably was. Also, speaking of Louis, Louis was my favorite character out of all the characters in this novel, especially out of the main 3 vampires that you meet, being Lestat, Louis, and Claudia. And I think that's partly why I wish that it wasn't told in an interview format so that I could get to know Louis a little bit better. I just liked the way that he was so in touch with art, and he really wanted to learn things all throughout the novel, whether it be about his origins and what vampires are, or just about other people he found interesting. He's one of those people that's very drawn to other people and wants to uncover the mysteries around them, and I'm one of those types of people, so I appreciated Louis being that way. That's basically all I can say without giving away any spoilers. The only problem I had with this book was the storytelling, and that was like a big problem for me, but I thought the writing was really great. I thought the characters were all pretty interesting, except for Lestat. Not a huge fan of Lestat. I thought that he was more of a plot tool than a character. That first portion of the novel did also drag for me, so I think that's part of the reason why I couldn't give it like a 4 or 5 out of 5 stars. And I've read so many other novels this year that I like, so I couldn't justify giving this the same rating I gave those. The middle part of this novel is like a 4 or 5 star read. First part is like a 2 star, and the last part of the novel is like a 3 star. So it kind of jumped around for me. But if you are interested in reading a good vampire novel, I would definitely recommend this either way. That is my very jumbled review of this book. I'm a little scatterbrained today, and I didn't write down my precise thoughts on this, but I did want to go ahead and film the review just so I don't film it later and then forget some of the things that I was trying to remember to say for the video. If you've read this book, let me know what you guys thought down in the comments, and I will see you next time I post a book video. Bye.